Radha Bhavatuti Subalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupa. Krishna, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna with the Mahabhav, the love, and the complexion of Srimati Radharani. On Shivaratri, I went to the Yoga Beach, Krishna, Lord Chaitanya's birthplace, with Shriti Dharma Prabhu, Anubandhu Prabhu, Gauri Prabhu, Purushottam Maharaj, and a few other people. There's a very ancient historical Shiva Lingam. So we kind of secretly go there every Shivaratri. But don't tell anyone. Well, while we were there, I was praying to Lord Shiva to bestow mercy upon me. That Vaishnavanamyata Sambhu is the greatest Vaishnava. Advaitacharya is Mahavishnu and also Sadashiva, the original Shiva. And it was he that prayed for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come to the world. So offering this little prayer, I stood in front of the main altar of Lord Chaitanya. On one side of him is Lakshmi Devi, and on the other is Vishnu Priya. And I was just thinking at that time. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his ecstasies to give the world the highest revelation of love, he especially emphasized Vipralambha, love and separation, as the most intensified and the most expedient way of cultivating that prema bhakti. Lakshmi Devi and Vishnu Priya are expansions of Srimati Radharani. They are the pleasure potency of the Lord. And as I was looking at Lakshmi Devi in her deity form,
Hare Krishna, if everyone can move a little forward, there's a lot of devotees who are trying to get into the hall as well. Thank you. It's a good time to announce that.
Hare Krishna.
The highest form of love.
Shivalingam. At the deity of Vishnu.
No.
Priya and
Yes.
thinking of Vishnu.
Priya and Vishnu.
So,
As I was Hare Krishna. Only in Kali Yuga do we need sound systems. Sutta Goswami spoke to 80,000 rishis in Naimisharanya without a microphone. And everyone could hear. Lakshmi Priya, the nature of her love for Lord Gauranga. He went to Bangladesh just for a few months, and she knew he was going to return. But the separation that she experienced was so intense. She didn't want Sachimata to see how much she was suffering. She secretly was crying 24 hours a day. She practically couldn't eat. She couldn't sleep. That was the intensity of her love and separation. And ultimately it came to such a culmination that she sat on the river the river Ganga's bank and totally absorbed in that love and separation. She couldn't possibly stay in her material body. She couldn't withstand the separation. Her soul went back to the spiritual world to be with Lord Gauranga. And her body died. That was the nature of her love. Then Lord Chaitanya returned. And out of Sachimata's love and concern, she invited Lord Chaitanya to marry again to Vishnu Priya. And how they served the Vaishnavas together so beautifully. Vishnu Priya was a witness of the wonderful Sankirtan pastimes. Kirtans and Srivasangam, everything was there. She was hearing, she was saying, she was experiencing. And then one night, she was only about 14 to 16 years old. Lord Chaitanya left and took sannyas. Now Lakshmi Priya knew that Lord Chaitanya was going to come back, but she couldn't bear even waiting another day. Vishnu Priya, she knew he would never come back. What was her love and separation? And she lived a very long life. There's the story of how, just for the pleasure of Sachi Devi, her eating was she would take a grain of rice and lovingly, kind of like we do on a Japamala bead, she would chant the names of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya on that grain of rice, and she'd put it aside. She'd be crying and chanting on each grain of rice. Then she would take that little pile of rice and cook it and offer it to Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya, after he left, he sent a murti of himself for Vishnu Priya to worship, just to keep her alive. Can you imagine what that rice tasted like? Vishnu Priya, an expansion of Srimati Radharani, with her whole heart in unlimited love and separation, is putting her heart while she's chanting into each grain of rice and then cooking it for her Lord. Then she would take a small portion of that. And she cried her whole life in separation. And then that same Lord Gauranga, who's standing in the middle of the altar between Lakshmi Devi and Vishnu Priya, when he went to Puri during the Ratha Yatra, he himself exhibited that love and separation in the mood of his Hladini Shakti. The same ecstasy he gave Lakshmi and Vishnu Priya and beyond, he himself was now experiencing for himself. During Ratha Yatra, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the mood of Sri Radha, and he saw Jagannath as Krishna. And Swarup Damodar Goswami could understand perfectly the mood of Radharani in the form of Lord Chaitanya. Just as in the spiritual world, Lalita Saki knows exactly the mood in which to best serve Srimati Radha. Swarup Damodar Goswami would sing songs about Vrindavan, sing songs about Krishna. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, weeping, begging, crying, Jagannath, please come back to Vrindavan. Kaviraj Goswami tells that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the first 24 years of his Leela, he lived in Navadvip. He had his beautiful little childlike pastimes, which was mostly his loving reciprocation with Sachi Devi and Jagannath Mishra. And then he became a student, and oh, what a student he was. He was so restless. Then he went to Gaya and came back and established the Sankirtan. And at that time, all of his most intimate, loving associates and avatars from all over India and all over the world were coming to join him. When he was 24 years old, he took sannyas. For 6 years he traveled. He traveled all the way from Puri to Kanyakumari, and he went up the west coast to Maharashtra, and he came back. He traveled around Bengal. He traveled to Vrindavan through the Jarikhanda forest. And the last 18 years of his life, he didn't leave Puri. And especially the last 12, he spent most of that time in the Gambhira, exhibiting the love of Sri Radha in separation from Krishna. So that same Lord Gauranga, after giving these ecstasies to Lakshmi Devi and Vishnu Priya, he himself experienced himself in the mood of his own feminine pleasure potency. To fulfill the innermost purpose of his mission, to directly experience the glory of Srimati Radharani's love. Radha is the supreme lover. Krishna is the supreme object of love. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is both the lover and loved, experiencing the dynamics of that eternal, intimate, supreme relationship. These are some very brief explanations of the 3 internal reasons for Lord Chaitanya. Now let us briefly discuss the external reasons. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his supreme mercy, wanted to distribute Radha's love to the whole world. You see, in every yuga there's a yuga dharma. And actually every Kali Yuga, Harinam Sankirtan is the yuga dharma. In Satya Yuga, the recommended process is meditation. To perform that type of meditation and attain prema bhakti, the average lifetime is about 100,000 years. You would have to sit in total absorption samadhi for about 60,000 years in meditation to get that love of God. Seems difficult for you and me, but in Satya Yuga, it wasn't that difficult, quite difficult. There was a price. In Treta Yuga, performing of yajna. But the yajna had to be absolutely perfect precision. In Treta Yuga, to perform a single yajna properly, you would have to prepare for thousands of years to make it right. In Dwapara Yuga, perfect temple worship. These things are practically impossible in Kali Yuga. So the Yuga avatar of Kali teaches Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam, kalo nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gatiranyita. Simply chant the names of Hari and you will attain that same perfection. It was the time for the Yuga avatar. And Krishna himself decided that he would come in his original form. This only happens once in a day of Brahma. The Yuga avatar of Kali, for Krishna to come in the sweet mood of Srimati Radharani to distribute personally Srimati Radharani's love to the world through kirtan, doesn't happen every Kali Yuga. It happens once in a day of Brahma. And of course, after the day, there's a night. That's approximately, it's over 8 billion years. Hare Krishna. Very rare. Srila Prabhupada, he would see the whole picture. So he would sometimes say, just recently Lord Chaitanya came. For us, 500 years ago, it's not so recent. But considering he comes once every 8 billion years, it's very recent. He came to spread this Prem Sankirtan. There's a beautiful story. King Prataparudra, he had never seen the devotees before except Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Gopinathacharya. And from the rooftop of his palace, Lord Chaitanya was greeting the devotees. There was about 300 or 400 coming from Navadvip, Shantipur, Srikanda, Kulinagram, all these areas. They were coming, performing kirtan. King Prataparudra was expressing, I have never seen such effulgence. I've never heard such beautiful, beautiful sound of kirtan. Now King Prataparudra, the king of Puri, he had seen tens and thousands of kirtan parties. But nothing like this. He asked Gopinathacharya and Sarvabhauma, what is this? And they said, this is the special feature of Lord Chaitanya's gift to the world. He has come to establish Prem Sankirtan. Not just the chanting of the holy names. And we should appreciate this. Because kirtan's common everywhere in India. Even if you go to the places of Shankaracharya, people are doing kirtan. Kirtan is everywhere in India. But what is special and unique? Prem Sankirtan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to bring the type of kirtan that actually transports us to Goloka Vrindavan. In Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Parampara, he has infused in the holy name Sri Radha's love, the love of the Brijabasis. This is the special feature that Srila Prabhupada has come to give us. And from the pages of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, we can understand and deeply be grateful and appreciate the fortune that we have. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came praying Sankirtan. It's described the nature of the praying or the love of the gopis and the Brajavasis. Kaviraj Goswami tells that the residents of Vrindavan, they have no inclination for their own sustenance, protection, or enjoyment. Their absolute everything is only for Krishna's pleasure. There's that beautiful story of when Krishna had a headache. He was asking for the dust of the feet of other people. The sages, the yogis, the jnanis, they knew who Krishna was. We can't put our feet on Krishna's head. But the gopis immediately were collecting, they were scraping every bit of dust they could get from their feet and putting it in little boxes to send to Krishna. And when they were asked, they said, yes, of course we know. We'll probably go to hell for this. The gopis were willing to suffer the pangs of hell for eternity, if necessary, if it would relieve Krishna of his headache for one moment. That is the nature of their love. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, love of God is defined. Savai pungshang puro dharmo yatho bhaktir hokshitiya hoitiki aprati hatha yatna suprasidati. The supreme occupation for all humanity is divine loving service to the one supreme Lord. Such love must be unmotivated by any selfish interest and uninterrupted by any condition. Happiness, distress, pleasure, pain, honor, dishonor. For a true devotee, nothing can interrupt the flow of our love and our willingness to serve. How Srila Prabhupada manifested that. Unconditional. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, in the mood of Sri Radha, revealed her love and taught us. Natananda jananda sundarim kavitam vajakadishaka. Mama janmani janmanishwari bhavata bhaktira vaitaki. I do not want wealth, the beauty and pleasures of the opposite sex. I do not want followers, prestige, fame, scholarship. I don't want mystical powers. I don't even want liberation from suffering. I only want to please you and serve you. And if it's your desire, birth after birth after birth. This is the love of the residents of Vrindavan. We read about the gopis, how they make themselves so beautiful. But their beauty is only for Krishna. Because Vrindavan is Chintamani Dham. Whatever you wish is fulfilled. The gopis' beauty is ever increasing infinitely. Because they desire to be beautiful for Krishna. It's not that they look in the mirror and think, I'm so beautiful. They just want to please Krishna with their beauty. And when they sing for Krishna, their only desire is to sing so beautiful to give pleasure to Krishna. So their singing is ever increasingly, eternally sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. There's no stagnancy. This is the spiritual world and their dance. And even when they say to Krishna, oh, why are you hurting me? They're only saying that to give pleasure to Krishna. Nothing for themselves. This is unconditional love. Highest ecstasies. In the most intimate forms of Vrindavan. In Vaikuntha, Krishna explained, love is crippled by this sense of reverence for the majesty of God. But only in Vrindavan, the gopas climb on Krishna's shoulders and wrestle with him and joke with him. And they splash water on each other. They pretend they're monkeys together and dance like peacocks together. And Krishna's defeated in wrestling by his friends. And Yashoda Mai, she's chastising Krishna. She's punishing Krishna. And Krishna's weeping and crying, begging for her mercy. And the gopis, they only know him as a lover. Vrindavan is Madhurya Dham, the highest culmination of love of God in its sweetest, most unconditional, intimate forms. This is the benediction through our parampara of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that is revealed through the chanting of the holy names. So this was the first reason, to establish the Yuga Dharma. Second was to fulfill his promise, which he spoke in Bhagavad Gita. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam dharmasya tadatmanam srajanam paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya tudusprutam dharma samstapanaradhaya samlavani yuge yuge. That in order to protect the pious, to annihilate the miscreants, and to reestablish true religious principles, I descend into this world again and again. He came to reestablish those religious principles and attract the hearts of his loving devotees. And there's a third, very special reason the Lord appeared. To reciprocate with the compassion of his great devotee, Advaitacharya. And here we will briefly begin the story of Lord Chaitanya's descent into the world. In Srihata, which is today Bangladesh, there was a very, very great Brahmin devotee of the name Upendra Mishra. He had 7 sons. The most illustrious of all his sons was Jagannath Mishra. He left Srihata to come to Navadvip in order to study under a very great scholar of the name Nilambar Chakravarti. He resided on the bank of the Ganga. Nilambar Chakravarti saw in Jagannath Mishra such a divine personality, and he understood the will of the Lord as well. So he married his beloved daughter Sachi Devi to Jagannath Mishra. It is described that when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided to descend into this world, he sent many of his greatest expansions, avatars and devotees to prepare the way for him. Hanuman, in the form of Murari Gupta, Desh. In fact, years ago I went to his birthplace. Advaitacharya appeared in Navagram. Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Acharya Radhanath, Jagannath Mishra, Sachi Devi, Paramananda Puri, and Nityananda Prabhu appeared in the district of Radha Desh in the village of Ekachakra to Padmavati and Adai Pandit. They were all there to prepare the way for Sri Chaitanya. Sachi Devi, please just take this away. She had 8 daughters. Each one of them died immediately after taking birth. So Sachi and Jagannath Mishra, this was causing them great grief. So they began to very much increase their loving devotional service to their Shalagram Shiva. And ultimately an expansion of Nityananda, Balaram, appeared as their son. His name was Vishnu. And Srila Prabhupada explains here that after they had this beautiful, supremely auspicious child, most people, they worship the Lord when they're in difficulty, and then once things are nice, then okay, Krishna, thank you. But they increased their worship because they were so grateful. And then the Supreme Lord Krishna, endowed with the love of Sri Radharani, appeared in the mind of Jagannath Mishra. And just as when the full moon rises, the sun transfers its light to illuminate the moon, in a similar way, from the heart of Jagannath Mishra, the Lord was transferred to the heart of Sachi Devi. And from her heart, he manifested within her womb, began to grow. And when the Lord was in the womb of Sachi Devi, everything became so auspicious. There are so many stories. Sachi Devi would tell Jagannath Mishra, I don't know what's happening. Sometimes I just see all these celestial beings offering prayers to the child in my womb. And Jagannath Mishra said, what I'm experiencing, sometimes I just go out and people start offering me gifts. They never did this before. Everything was so special. They loved this child inconceivably, unlimitedly, because Jagannath Mishra is Nanda Maharaj. Sachi Mata is Yashoda Mai. That's those same personalities with that same love for Krishna. We're living in Navadvip. The time for the birth, 9 months. It came, it went. 10 months. 11 months. 12 months. It was now coming to the 13th month, and the child was just not moving. So this really alarmed the parents. And they went to Nilambar Chakravarti, Sachi Devi's father, and asked, can you tell us what's happening? And he did a special astrological calculation. And his conclusion was, this is a supreme extremely auspicious child who was especially waiting for the most auspicious possible moment to appear. Now in India, an eclipse is considered inauspicious. People have so many superstitions about eclipses. Even many devotees, actually. And I was in one place in a temple where they put black paper over every window and locked the doors. Because if even a single trace of the light of an eclipse comes into the house, it's considered everything's contaminated. And even in Vrindavan, during eclipses, all the temples are closed. But some of the pujaris tell me, but secretly behind the closed doors we do all our puja. Anyways, it's considered inauspicious. And because it's considered so inauspicious, people, in order to save themselves from these dark influences, they chant the names of Hare. I was told in Bengal that many people, their whole life they will chant the names of Durga. When they're dying, they chant the names of Hare. So everyone, everywhere, was chanting Hari's names. And Advaitacharya and all the devotees. Let me just speak something about Advaita. For years, he could see the lamentable condition of the people of Navadvip. It was the highest place of learning for the whole world. But yet there was no sense of devotion. Everyone was learning because they wanted to increase their fame, their prestige, their fortunes. They wanted mystical powers, they wanted liberation. But there was no sense of devotion. This caused such pain to Advaitacharya. Interesting, Navadvip was a flourishing place. Economically, it was prosperous as anything. As far as colleges and education, everyone had the most incredible opportunities. So from a material perspective, Navadvip was far more prosperous than any place in the world today. But yet his heart was totally broken, because he saw that people were so mesmerized and addicted to these materialistic things. They had no devotion to Krishna. Nobody was chanting with devotion. He was crying, weeping, out of compassion. And he saw in the future how Kali Yuga was going to decline worse and worse. Advaitacharya was seeing our condition today. And he was weeping, weeping, and weeping. He would spend his days and his nights practically on the bank of the Ganges. Only Krishna can save these people. He was crying for Krishna to appear. And his cries reached Goloka Vrindavan. And in order to reciprocate with Advaita's prayers, Krishna appeared. And here was the time where in all directions the Hindus were chanting Hare. And even the Muslims, when they would see, they would ridicule by saying Hare. Everyone was chanting Hare. And it was at that time the most auspicious of all moments. You see auspiciousness. There's a beautiful verse in Srimad Bhagavatam that the supremely most auspicious of all activities is Sankirtan. And if inauspicious, painful disasters in this world help us to take shelter of the holy name, that's the most auspicious thing. Wherever we cry out for Krishna, that is auspicious. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to establish the Sankirtan movement, and he induced the whole of Navadvip to be chanting as he appeared like the moon from the ocean of the womb of Sachiti. Shri Gaura Mahaprabhu ki jai. We're now out of time. Huh? 10 more minutes. Sorry, I have to tolerate being told. And we know the story when he was just a little child. It was so beautiful. The golden complexion of Sri Radha. And anyone who saw him would fall in love with him. Advaitacharya and Haridas Thakur were in Shanti. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, they felt such unbelievable, inconceivable happiness. They didn't even know what happened. By the Lord's Yogamaya potency, nobody really knew. But they felt such happiness. They knew in their hearts, our Lord has appeared. They were dancing and singing and crying. Everyone around was wondering what happened to them. This is another very, very special message that Lord Chaitanya gave us. Because to induce Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come, Advaitacharya, the most prestigious, high-born Brahmin, he was the king of the whole Brahmin community, most respected. He was doing his prayers and crying with tulsi leaves and Ganges water, calling the names for Krishna. And at the same time, his dear, most intimate friend, Haridas Thakur, who was an untouchable, who had no caste. In the same mood as Advaita, he was chanting his 300,000 names of Krishna every day, living in a cave with a snake sometimes, with this singular wish for the Lord Krishna to appear in this world to deliver the fallen souls. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared due to the loving relationship of an untouchable and a Brahman, Haridas and Advaita, whose hearts were merged in their compassion for all living beings. And Srivas Thakur, he and his brothers, they were performing their kirtans at their house, begging Krishna to appear. Lord appeared as little poor Hari. When he came for his birth ceremony, a Brahmin came, Nilambar Chakravarti came, and revealed to the people the supreme opulences of the Lord, without telling exactly who he was. Nilambar, he said, because this child will nourish the entire universe, his name will be Vishwanath. When Sachi Devi because she lost so many other children, 8 daughters. She gave birth to Nimai under a neem tree. So to protect him from evil spirits, she named him Nimai. And Jagannath Mishra, seeing his beautiful golden limbs, called him Gauranga. The neighbors, they thought he looks just like Lord Hari, but he has a golden complexion, so they called him Gaur Hari. So everyone was calling him by these beautiful different names. But they loved him. And just as this baby is crying in the back, sometimes Nimai would cry. And when he would cry, it was worse than death, because everyone loved him. They didn't know he was Krishna, but they loved him unconditionally. In Vrindavan, the sweetness of the love is they don't know Krishna's God. They just love him because he's Krishna. In the same way, they didn't know Nimai was Krishna. They just loved him because he was Nimai, but he was Krishna. And to please him and make him happy was the only happiness of their life. And when he would cry, that was the only suffering there. So he would cry. And the only thing that could pacify is when everyone who happened to be there gathered together around his little bed, clapped their hands, and chanted.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
When he saw everyone together chanting, he smiled. And that smile, so beautiful, so sweet, so full of love, penetrated so deep into our hearts, it's such a joy. And after some time he'd cry again, and we'd gather around and chant, and he would smile. And this was the pastimes of the Lord. From his infancy he was inducing all of his devotees to find the supreme joy of the chanting of the holy names. Sankirtan. More time. If I start telling another story, it's finished. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.